And right now at 5, LMPD's top cop is leaving. Chief Steve Conrad just announced he's retiring at the end of June. That memo coming out in an email from the mayor late this afternoon. Conrad's retirement comes as the FBI and state attorney general both now are investigating his department.
That investigation is over the raid that killed former Louisville EMT Breonna Taylor. And that is not the only controversy for the department during Conrad's tenure as chief. We have team coverage tonight.
And we begin with WDRB's Stefan Johnson. He's live at LMPD headquarters with the Metro Council President, David James, to talk about this huge announcement. Stefan?
Right, we're just outside Chief Steve Conrad's office where, again, the announcement was made today. Steve Conrad has had a lengthy police career. He's served two stints here in Metro Louisville, coming back in 2000, or he's been here since 2008, serving 12 years here. Today, that announcement shocked a lot of us. Metro Council President David James, you've been one of the chief's biggest critics since his time here as chief. What were your thoughts after hearing that he was going to retire?
I really think that it's a good opportunity for Louisville Metro, the Louisville Metro Police Department, to hit the reset button and to go in a new direction to help take the city in a better direction.
Okay, and you've talked to the chief before directly and said to him that you thought that it was time for him to go. Other members of Metro Council have also shared some of the same concerns. What was it about the chief that you thought he couldn't handle the job here?
Well, I think the chief is a very nice person. I think he'd be a great next door neighbor. I think he'd be a great friend to people. But I didn't feel that as the leader of the 16th largest police department in the country, that it was a good fit for him.
Yeah, a lot of things happen here in the Metro Louisville area. What a lot of people probably don't know, before you became a member of Metro Council, you served on this department with the chief and his interim, the interim chief,
Absolutely.
Robert Schroeder.
That's correct.
What do you think about Robert Schroeder as the interim chief?
I think Robert Schroeder will do an outstanding job as the interim chief of the Louisville Metro Police Department. He's a fine gentleman, a good police officer, professional, cares about the officers, cares about this community, and I'll look forward to his service as the police chief.
All right. There was a sex scandal with the Explorer program, which we covered extensively. There have been several high-profile fatal shootings involving officers, but this latest case involving that former Metro EMT, Breonna Taylor, got national attention. Do you think that's what ultimately led to this unexpected retirement?
I think it had a very big part of that. You know, there's been many things. There's been the rise in violence in our community. There's been the sex abuse scandal. There's been the high degree of traffic stops in West Louisville. There's been so many things, and this was just the latest thing. And so I just think that all those things combined together led to the chief announcing his retirement.
And what about the search for a permanent replacement? Do you think Robert Schroeder wants the job? You know him, and I know it's the mayor's decision, but what do you think about in terms of leading the department? Because a lot of those same issues still exist.
They do. Whoever comes in is going to have a lot of work to do. But I think that the mayor, I'm suggesting that the mayor have a national search for his next police chief. And if that happens to be Robert Schroeder, then that's great. Or whoever the best person is for this particular job in this particular city with this particular historic police department.
And finally, before we let you go, what about the men and women who make up the Metro Police Department? Have you heard from any of them? I know over the years they've reached out to you about concerns. What have you heard since this big announcement?
I've probably had about 20 phone calls since the announcement, about 70 text messages from this announcement from men and women of the police department. They're very happy to see change, to see their department have an opportunity to grow. You know, there was always a comment from the FOP who did a no confidence vote in Chief Conrad just in 2017 that they felt like he didn't have their back. And so they're looking forward to the opportunity to have a new chief for Rob Schroeder to step in and to show some direction and leadership on this police department.
I got a little mixed up on the toss coming in. The chief's time here, how long has he been here again? And typically chiefs tend to serve 2 to 3 years, a little bit longer?
Correct. The average service of a police chief is anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5 years. Chief Conrad had been here since 2012.
All right.
And so he's been here for 8 years, which is quite a while for a police chief.
Right, and this is his hometown. Thank you so much, Council President David Jackson, for talking to us. As we said, Chief Conrad has had a lengthy career here in Louisville, a lot of it shrouded in controversy. WDRB's Fallon Glick delves deeper into the chief's time here in Metro Louisville.
Stefan, and as Councilman James just mentioned, Steve Conrad was named Chief of Police for LMPD in February of 2012. His time as chief has been plagued by scandal and growing violence in the city. Steve Conrad became a patrol officer with the old Louisville Police Department in 1980. He moved up to assistant chief with LMPD before leaving for a chief job in Glendale, Arizona, then came back to Louisville as chief in 2012. Then a year later, in 2013, Conrad learned of allegations of sexual assault in the LMPD Explorer program, but that information didn't become public until years later. According to an investigative report by a former U.S. attorney, Conrad learned of Officer Kenneth Betts' sexual abuse claims in 2013. Instead of firing Betts or criminally charging him, Conrad allowed Betts to resign. That scandal also involved other allegations that multiple officers abused teens in the program. Betts wasn't charged and indicted until 2017, after the allegations first became public. In 2015, under Conrad's leadership, LMPD started rolling out the use of body cameras for officers. In 2016, the Louisville Fraternal Order of Police took a vote of no confidence in Conrad. More than 90% of officers voted they had no confidence in him. It came after concerns over the lack of manpower and a record-breaking number of criminal homicides. In 2017, Louisville Metro Council members also passed a no-confidence resolution in the chief. It pointed out the city's homicide rate tripling in the last 3 years and also cited a lack of transparency in the Explorer scandal. And in 2019, Conrad announced a major reorganization in the department. Conrad said it was necessary to get more officers on patrol to absorb budget cuts and retirements. And Conrad will be working through the end of next month, which is also the end of the budget cycle. Fallon Glick, WDRB News.